One of the most common questions in the Escape from Tarkov community, outside of when is the next wipe, is how do I improve PvP in this game? Every guide that you've watched up until now has told you the most important things to focus on are map knowledge, using the best ammo available, and to never left-hand peek. This sounds simple, but why do players tell you this repeatedly and yet you still can't find success even after implementing these things? Getting better at Escape from Tarkov is more complex than a 1 or 2 word answer can summarize. You will need more than knowing where the infamous 2 and 3 story dorms are to make you a godlike player. The only proper way to improve is to use those simple tips as building blocks to becoming a better player. For example, map knowledge means more than just knowing where every key landmark is on the map. For a player who wants to improve, this means learning every possible entrance and exit to these locations, the commonly held angles, and how people navigate through and around these areas. So in the spirit of improving today, we'll focus on PvP and the things you need to be doing and implementing to score your first, 10th, or 1000th PMC kill. Before we get into this video, I'd like to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for all the support so far. If you aren't subscribed, consider subscribing as our community grows more and more daily, and it would mean the world to me. I also stream on Twitch, and we have a Discord server to chat and hang out. Links in the description below. If there's one thing you take away from this video, it's that your skill in PvP is independent of the gun you are using. Even though Escape from Tarkov is a tactical shooter, it still has aspects that allow players to evolve and break the current skill ceiling. Learning to make quick decisions is one thing, but using your movement to accomplish what you have in mind is what separates you from the herd. As combat evolves with the addition of inertia, players have begun to break the boundaries of what we knew was possible, from peaks that make you unable to be shot back at, to jumping upstairs with no sound. Movement reigns supreme in every meta. Therefore, I contacted a regional EFT Sherpa to help with this guide. He's been gracious enough to allow me to use some of his clips to demonstrate the power of movement and things you can practice and master today to level up your gameplay. AD strafing was removed with the addition of inertia. In turn, peeking is very difficult now as you're left swinging corners extra wide or exposing yourself in hopes of getting intel or baiting shots. For those struggling or brand new to the system, I've compiled demonstrations from Lions on how to peek properly. Starting with a standard peek, utilizing the leans with your strafes, you can clear corners and hallways quickly and efficiently. Also, here's a variation with W and S strafes using free looks, as inertia isn't as heavy when you're going forward and backwards versus going left and right. Next is a quicker peek for when you know where the enemy is and want to pre-fire them while being practically invisible on their screen. This was nerfed by BSG, but can be done slower by performing a left or right slow lean, then spamming Q and E at the same time. This is the only way to quick lean currently without inertia, and here's an example of what it looks like from the other person's POV. Finally, here's some simpler peeks that everyone should utilize: the slow lean peek and the running peek. The slow lean peek will allow you to inch out enough to shoot your enemies without them even seeing you. This is also vital for dealing with Tarkov's more complex AI, as they won't engage you if done properly. The running peek is used to clear hallways and doorways quickly, and is super hard for an opponent to shoot you while you're doing this. Then, when you find an enemy, try to position on the right hand side of the door before engaging. When you are forced to peek from the left hand side, which is commonly disadvantageous, you should always try to maintain your maximum speed before taking the fight. With the addition of inertia, your character in game no longer runs at his top speed on command, similar to real life. It will take time for you to reach this speed, and depending on how heavy you are, will change the max speed value. To maintain your speed, keep sprinting, or if you're coming from a dead stop, sprint to a wall to build up your momentum beforehand. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel for a 10% buff to your movement speed. There are many different types of players and as a result, playstyles in Escape from Tarkov. That being said, there is no right way to play the game. How you decide to play and are comfortable with playing is the best way to play. There are pros and cons for every playstyle though. However, one of the most important things to learn is how and when to play aggressively. In most scenarios, it is more advantageous to be the aggressor. Some players freeze in the face of confrontation, and the fear of dying in some scenarios could be a debilitating feeling for some people, leading them to stay in a room or a bad position and wait for the enemy to come to them. But having confidence is half of the fight in itself. Take action and the fight into your own hands and on your own terms. Being aggressive does not always mean you have to run down a hallway head on at a team. However, repositioning, throwing grenades, and doing anything that will give yourself an upper hand in the fight is better than passively sitting and waiting for your death. This is the only way you'll be able to beat groups of players and improve in the current state of Tarkov. This, combined with the fundamentals you've developed so far, like map knowledge, will enable you to know which rooms you can push into while in a fight, and always have the advantageous right hand peek or where to aim to be at head or torso level. Additionally, as much as we hate it, desync is very much a thing in the current state of Escape from Tarkov, where players who push or peek first will see the enemy on their screen well before the other player does. Abusing this is a matter of life or death in most scenarios, because if you do not do it to them, they will do it to you. Every piece of equipment that you equip in Escape from Tarkov have stat penalties assigned to them that reduce your turning speed, worsen the time it takes to aim down sights of your weapon. In addition, constantly switching gear can make it very hard to adapt, as you will in theory always be playing on a different sensitivity. This is why it's essential, if possible, to try to run the same gear raid after raid until you're familiar with the penalties that they give you. Then you can slowly build your arsenal, but familiarity with 1 or 2 kits is much better than trying to be a jack of all trades. The faster you can move during a gunfight, the harder you are to hit, so maintaining an optimal speed is very important. One of the hindrances to this is aiming down sight, as it lowers the speed at which you strafe. Another mechanic you can implement into your playstyle is point firing. Swinging corners un-ADS allows you to come out faster while keeping that directional momentum, allowing you to dodge bullets. Combine this with pre-firing where your enemy is going to be to maximize your chance of winning engagements. In Escape from Tarkov, your shots don't always go to the center of your screen, like in a traditional first-person shooter. Bullets come from the actual barrel of your gun, and where the barrel is pointing shifts depending on how you move. Moving to the right will shift the bullets, and they will also land to the right. Therefore, strafing out and then switching directions, whether left or right, will cause your shots to deviate due to counter-strafe, making them wildly inaccurate. Good start. A laser in the hideout is a good way to visualize this effect. A tactical device on your gun will tighten the spread of your bullets because of the accuracy buff that it gives you when not ADS'd. However, if you're in a scenario where you need to aim down sights, doing so directly after a sprint will allow you to instantly aim down your sights, ignoring ergonomic stats on your current weapon. For the final step in this process, practice and implementation are the 2 things that you need to do to become a god at PvP. No matter the patch or the meta, you can sit around all day watching 50 guides on how to improve, but until you load into a raid and experience and do these things firsthand, nothing will ever change. Do not worry about getting a meta gun to build or trying to do what the top pros are doing. Worry more about your mechanics, positioning, and movement, as above all else, this combined with the tips that we showcased in this video is what will put you ahead of the competition time and time again, wipe after wipe.